Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those beyond and in between the binary, this podcast episode is scheduled for 2 hours and is episode 11 of Below the Distance, a gorgeous ladies of wrestling podcast. Coming to the mixer first, hailing from Oakland, California. First things first, she's the shrillest, and she's here to get fancy, Jetta Rae. And her co-host, also hailing from Oakland, California. She's a killer queen, guaranteed to glow your mind anytime, Lauren Parker.
Well, let me tell you something. Lauren, it's good to be back.
It is good to be back. We've got the home stretch ahead of us now.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And we are joined today by a very special guest.
Hello.
It's our producer, Paul.
Hi.
It's good to have you on in a more, intimate capacity.
Yeah, it'll be interesting editing my voice over the weekend.
Yes, nothing quite encapsulates the fervor of an episode 8 like forcing a woman to do double the emotional labor by having to tell Paul what I want now and then later when I have to tell future Paul to make sure that all of my jokes get the good splices.
Yes, that.
How feminist of us.
All right, so Paul, we ask every single one of our guests the same question.
I'm familiar with this.
That's true. But maybe the audience that's jumping in on episode 900 hasn't got whiff of what our deal is. So I'm going to ask you, what is wrestling?
Wrestling is... Oh, man. I mean, to me, wrestling growing up was just kind of something everybody did. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I still enjoyed it. You know, it was the Hulk Hogan era. Now it's a little different, but back then...
Paul is making eye contact with me when he talks about Hulk Hogan because he thinks that we're in the same age range.
No. Mostly just because you know
who
Hulk Hogan is as a wrestler and not as...
Brooke Hogan's dad.
I mean,
whatever he is now.
I mean, literally last night I recorded an episode with my other wrestling podcast about Hulk Hogan's brief presidential campaign.
What? You've been seeing other podcasts?
What? Hulk Hogan had a presidential campaign?
What? Tell us more.
Oh, he ran for president,
against Jesse Ventura.
No, so he actually ran for president to prove he could be better, like he could do better than Jesse Ventura. And the joke that I said there, which I'm going to recycle here, is that he just had to wait. Because at the time, Jesse Ventura was on a high. He was like the cool governor. He was like the governor who was like tough and macho, but he would still go on Larry King and be like, I think the gays should serve in the military. It'd be good for morale and camaraderie. You know,
because all that secret.
Less competition with women. I can't do a good Jesse Ventura. The Hulk Hogan is solid. Just let me get there. You know, and he would be like, you know, I think we should reinstitute the draft, and you know, all this class conscious, specifically he wanted rich people to have to do the draft. So he had all this class conscious, I guess he was even though he was an independent, he was a conservative in the way that conservatives still wish they were. He was the pro civil rights, you know,
the New Hampshire modern.
Yeah. But all Hulk Hogan had to do was wait a couple years, because now Jesse Ventura is the conspiracy theory guy who's just banging
also the New Hampshire moderate.
Yeah. Now he's just now he's just oh, this is this used to be a Pizza Hut. Now it's locked. It must be a FEMA death camp. You know, Hulk Hogan could have just waited, you know, for that, and then dove in Because you cannot tell me that you would not watch a Hulk Hogan conspiracy theory show.
Yeah. I also think this is an important life lesson. If you ever want to beat somebody at anything, just wait until they're on InfoWars, and that's when you strike.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. The driver of Princess Diana was not the usual driver, brother. He was a substitute at the last minute.
Like, see?
So,
where is he on Kennedy?
That's a good question. Oh, is that meant for me to be? Okay.
Well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. I go to the right. I don't go back and to the left, brother. When I punch right.
Where does Lee Harvey Oswald didn't have the strength to handle the kickback of that gun? Hi, welcome to your traditional conspiracy theory hour, hosted by Glow the Distance.
Getting to the moon first was a major morale victory over the Soviet Union, Jack dude.
But why aren't we still there?
Yeah.
Anyway,
So,
Paul's just crying in a corner of my apartment.
that is a lot of people's life experience with Hulk Hogan.
Oh,
I do want to briefly touch, because I watched a lot of wrestling as a kid, but I stopped for a long time, and in high school I ended up watching quite a bit of wrestling, and it was mostly to bond with the other kids in theater.
Checks out.
They were all huge wrestling fans when I changed schools, and it was just kind of if I wanted to bond with them and kind of like be a part of this new team, it just seemed like the right thing to do, and I ended up getting really into it. It was in the Mankind, the Rock era, right before the Attitude Era kind of started taking hold. So once the arms over crotches happened, I stopped watching wrestling.
And that's why I love you, baby. Even as a 17-year-old doofus, a genuine grade A fuckboy, because you definitely owned a I Heart Vagina belt buckle.
Oh, we're going there.
You still knew enough to fuck off for Triple H.
So speaking of that, actually, that is going to be our wrestling fan news caveat. Are you familiar with the Young Bucks?
No.
The Young Bucks are a tag team. They're one of the most popular indie tag teams right now. They're known a lot because they do a lot of spots. They do like a lot of like high risk, like a lot of really complex choreographed spots. But they also do like a lot of comedy. I'm
kind of surprised, especially since the origin of wrestling and how it is that more comedy isn't kind of infused with the art form.
That is a huge debate, like almost a schism within the industry.
When it becomes comedy, does it become acrobatics or clowning then?
No, some people feel like there are purists who don't believe that comedy and wrestling should mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they not know how sideshows work? Anyway.
No. So part of their gimmick is that they're kind of like an ironic nostalgia machine.
Okay.
So they do all of DX's like taunts. So they tell people to suck it, and they do the crotch chop, and they mean to do it as like a satire. Mm-hmm. They've done it so much that it has kind of become part of their character, and WWE just sued them to cease and desist.
They should, but probably not for the reasons I want.
Yeah.
Funny how let me guess. I'm not going to end up happy at the end of this. Now am I?
It is 2017 and a major corporation just like called trademark on sexual harassment.
Cool. Excellent. Great. Awesome. I'm just going to go live in this pit if anybody needs me.
So I guess the other bit of like news is that I recently tried to find a missing white girl.
Did you put her on a milk carton?
They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, they stopped.
They stopped because it was really bumming people out.
It really was. It's kind of like the sad Sarah McLachlan dog commercial.
Yeah. Last episode. So I guess like a recurring theme of this podcast is I fucking suck at math. To give you an idea of how bad I suck at math. So this year for 32, I'm going to go back to school to be an EMT.
That's awesome.
When I originally went into school to do that, because you can do that through community college. When I enrolled into community college like 3 or 4 years ago, they made you take a placement test, and based on the placement test, it decided like what course you'd have to take. And my English portion was perfect score, didn't have to take any English classes, which makes sense because I already have a bachelor's degree. But the math portion, the proctor looked at the math portion and was like, according to this score, you have a learning disability. And I was like, all right, cool. I don't understand how 5 years of university did not pick up on that, but one guy like proctoring a community college exam.
Who's probably 2 years younger than you.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, going to community... I'm excited to go to community college again because I'm now over that hump. When you're over 30 and you go back to community college, people are like, hell yeah. You're picking your life around. You're picking your life back up. You're turning it around. You're like, you've gone and you've traveled the world, but you're working on yourself now, whatever. When you go in your late 20s, you're like, what the fuck happened to you?
Yeah, no,
like,
totally. You're clearly some sort of premonition of a way they're going to fail.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, at 32, it's like, oh, maybe you've lived a life.
Yeah. So, I'm excited about that. But so last episode mistakenly identified there being 13 members of the main cast, of all of the women wrestler cast, because I took Debbie to be +1, not Debbie and Ruth to be +2. So when you posted that promo photo with last week's episode, or I guess it would be this week's, according to, or last week, time, illusion, whatever. Anyway,
God. So
I was like, what the fuck? There's 14 girls.
Yeah.
And there's 2 of these I don't recognize. So I'm like, okay, well, one of them's probably like Vicky the Viking, but there's this missing girl. So I'm like looking through Glow, and I'm looking through online. It's like, did they drop a girl? Like after they took, because that's clearly before they had any of their characters.
Yeah, that's when that shot was taken.
Like,
there's only like, look, we're wrestlers before they had gimmicks. Yeah.
So like, I'm like, did they drop a girl? Did a girl die? Like, what happened? And then like, I just like, you know what? I'll let IMDb do the math.
Good.
And then IMDb informed me that I'm a fucking idiot. And there's 14 girls. And then that's when I realized that, like, the girl who plays Vicky the Viking and Kate Nash look nothing like their, like, actual characters.
Yeah, that's true.
In the show. So it's actually really good character work. That's how I'm remembering it. So that's been my week.
It's a rough week you've had.
You did 2 hours of reconnaissance on this particular...
I mean, off and on of, like, doing other stuff, too.
I made a sandwich.
Yeah.
And then I got back to Nancy Drew and my way through the missing wrestler is... Nancy Drew in the case of the missing Glow wrestler. Turns out I'm bad at counting. And I wouldn't have gotten away with it if it were for your rotten meddling math. So was that the wrestling fan news caveat?
And also the progressive caveat for me, because I just realized that I did the whatever. What are our progressive caveats for this episode?
It's written by a man, and that becomes very obvious.
So we watched episode 8. Maybe It's All the Disco. It's directed by Sean Hader. I don't know how to pronounce that. But she wrote and directed Tallulah, and she also wrote and directed 2 other shorts.
Oh, okay.
But this is only her second episode of a TV show that she's ever directed. I think that's really impressive.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of shots in this episode that are really
none
really
of my
profound.
complaints were about the direction.
And then this was written by Nick Jones,
who is a dude
who wrote The Wrath of Kuntar.
Yeah, bringing it all back around. It's not that I think that Nick Jones did a terrible job, but pregnancy, we were hitting all the 80s tropes, aren't we? And I'm not quite sure it's quite nostalgia. Like now it's just like, well, Ruth's got to do something. So now she's gonna get prego.
This is the epitome. Like this is a great example of the difference between like white feminism and like intersectional feminism. Like in intersectional circles, if you have a guy who's like doing an ostensibly feminist thing, his name's like Morgan Hieronymus or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. Nick Jones, white feminist.
Yeah,
is legit a thing. His name is originally Jason, but he changed it. In this, Mark Maron is Mark Maroning all over the place.
The whole episode.
Yeah, of the Mark Marons, he's the Charlie Browniest.
Mark Maron has Mark Maron glow so hard that he got his own Netflix series special. That's kind of like with...
This is the second one, actually. So
it's kind of like with Hulk Hogan, where Hulk Hogan did No Holds Barred and then beat Zeus so bad that Zeus came to life and challenged him on WWF and WCW television.
Wow.
So let's begin the lit recap. Sponsored by Jack Daniels and Apple Pie Oreos.
It's because none of you sent me a good, like, feminist bourbon. This is why I have to drink this sludge. Just so you know.
Please send help.
Oh my god. Everything tastes like the backwash of perfume. It's so bad.
Yeah, okay, so you on Twitter were like, you need to come over and eat these Apple Pie Oreos that I bought because they taste like summer's eve. And they don't taste like vagina. I have tasted many vaginas in my day, and you, madam, are not a vagina.
Yes, but you have not tasted summer's eve tainted vagina, I'm going to guess. Because it in fact does taste like a polluted beach.
I don't think it tastes like a polluted beach. No. I think it tastes like speculoos. Okay, so it's like you go to Trader Joe's and you eat like you just grab a jar of speculoos, put two fingers in.
For those who are unfamiliar, it's that yummy cookie butter stuff.
It's and then put it in your mouth, and then you go to Whole Foods and to the essential oils aisle.
Yeah, exactly.
Where like
it's 100% that.
Where like some
dead-eyed teenager.
Yeah, where some white girl with 2 dreads that she hides under her like clothes
because she feels guilty now.
Yeah. Well, she's trying to be work appropriate. Gives you some like essential oil of like
for anxiety.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just like. Yeah, it's like speculoos and then eating a Yankee Candle of green apple. It's not bad. I've eaten like 10.
So I had one, and like, I'm like, as a vegan, what I do is I just crush Oreos up and snort them at this point. But when I have most of a package of Oreos left over, it's sort of a damning condemnation, and most of them were left in that package because as soon as. And every time I like let anybody have one, I was like, okay, and I'm like, and wait for it, and that's when like that weird aftertaste would kick in, the weird candle part. And I literally walked by you as you were having your first one, and I said, wait for it, and then could smell that weird chemical green scent, and I went, there it is, and you were like, yeah, no, I get it.
I think what you've just described is like your origin story for when you become a serial killer,
right? Or a superhero.
All right, so
it's gonna be like my friend Lauren.
All right, so we start the episode with Sam and Rhonda driving into practice, and they're arguing about the best James Bond. Sam thinks it's George Lazenby because we're keeping in with his characterization of being the person in the relationship who is always wrong, and Rhonda thinks it's Roger Moore. In keeping with her characterization of being the one in the relationship who is always wrong. It's Pierce Brosnan. I'm sorry.
It's Clint Eastwood. The funny context of that joke, I told that joke 10 years ago, almost to the day, maybe. I did tell that joke 10 years ago to the guy that would go on to date me for 5 years. Ha ha, sucker. And I said with like a straight face that Clint Eastwood was my favorite Bond, and he really thought that I thought that Clint Eastwood was my favorite Bond.
Your heart is a polluted beach.
It really is. It was so fun to watch him be upset.
So they get to the gym, and Sam tells Rhonda they need to walk in separately to maintain this like veneer of professionalism.
Which all of a sudden he's grown like a gland somewhere.
When has he been professional this entire series?
I mean, it's certainly not his polos.
Well, hey. So, Sam interacts with sex robot, develops weird gland that gives him self-consciousness.
I'm so glad we got the team together, you guys.
And he says that he has to be the one to go in first because he's the director and he can't be late. Tammy comes by and it's like, I'm not touching that.
Yeah, no, she's like,
Yeah, that was.
but she kind of blinks in Morse code, leave him.
I did note that Rhonda has really cute high-rise shorts.
She just looks fucking adorable all the time, and
Agreed.
she's great, and he sucks.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I'll unpack this a little bit more in the episode, but if Sam Silvia is supposed to be the romantic lead, they fucked up because he's one you're never rooting for.
Yeah.
You want everyone to dump him forever.
Yeah. And so then we're in the gym, and Ruth comes in, and she sees Debbie working the medicine ball. So, of course, Ruth sits right next to her and immediately starts doing the medicine ball with her, and then starts badgering her about why Debbie's in a bad mood.
So here's my deal with Debbie. I'm going to throw Debbie to Nothing Wrong a bone, because that is a vast fan club, and I respect your passion. And I'm going to admit that Ruth constantly trods on, like, Debbie's nonverbal boundaries. She's always like, have you forgiven me yet? Have you forgiven me yet? Have you forgiven? What's wrong? Have you forgiven me yet? And it's terrible. And she doesn't get that you should lay the fuck low. Like, you got her wrestling with you. You got what you wanted. You're starring in the show. Shut the fuck up. But no. She has to be underfoot all the time in her rainbow leg warmers.
And you can also tell, like, immediately in that scene that, like, her whole intention of doing the medicine ball is just to, like, badger Debbie. Like, she's not into it. She's, like, kind of going side to side, like, ho-hum, like, not really into the workout. And, like, you can immediately tell, like, she's just going to start badgering Debbie about what's wrong.
Which is interesting, because Debbie's form is, like, great, and she's, like, finally focused on working out. And Ruth sits next to her, and she's like, what's wrong? Why are you upset? And she's like, probably because the person who fucked my husband is, like, sitting hip to hip with me, hitting me in the face with her fucking ball. Like,
I like Debbie's outfit here. I described it in the notes as, like, junior high school dance swingers party. She's got this, like, pink sleeveless sweater. She's got this, like, poofy cable knit pink sweater.
she just looks
and, like,
super cute, yeah.
and like this like big poofy ponytail, and then Ruth has this like 70s sex film, 70s like lesbian kung fu film, like, or like space kung fu film. Like, she's got this like form-fitting like sleeveless ringer tee,
but no bra.
but like tight shorts, like tight panties, and then like knee-high, like, leg warmers that go up to her knees that are rainbow. Like, she looks like a sequel to Barbarella.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty for it.
Yeah.
I actually thought the contrast between their two outfits in that particular scene was very good. And I don't know if it was done on purpose and metaphorically, and if so, I don't know for what, but I just really liked it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the jock and the cheerleader, except for the jock is a theater nerd stuffed into a jock outfit. So take that how you will.
Sam tells the women that the show on Friday was a success, and if they repeat it, they'll be gold. Specifically, he says bona fide, which really irritated me. He then asks Jenny to...
It irritated her so much that we were in the middle of rewatching it, and she just shouted it into the ether.
Yeah, like, no warning. Just bona fide.
She didn't even have, like, any other comments to make during the show.
What is it about bona fide that...
I mean, I'm not a stickler for pronunciation. Grammar is a lie that we made up for white supremacy.
Right.
You know, it's just that, like, it's such a cheap trick to have the hack director, right, who's, like, you know, makes this big deal about how his films are taught in college, but he's still, like, subversive and punk and not with the culture, right? But then, like, he purposely mispronounces words to show, like, to me it seems like it's performative. Like,
yeah, he kind of reminds me of, like, cool kid Xers now.
Yeah.
As somebody who's tolerating them because they are around. They've not died yet. But yeah, it's a very, like, he does want so much to be cool.
I mean, it's also self-loathing because for me. Because after I dated, like, a Canadian woman for a while, I started saying a boot. And, like, I started doing it as, like, a way to, like, show that I was being cutesy with her, and now I can't stop doing it.
No, I get that.
And now everyone, like, thinks that I'm putting on an affect. So I just
I have that
recognized
with a
myself and I had to punch myself in the face.
Right. I have that with like a little bit of touch of Boston and like how I say yeah and like kind of like I say it in rapid succession. It's
Yeah.
very Boston. And like I don't and like in like weird twang that I picked
Yeah.
up.
Okay. Yeah. So you are like the most like intense active listener that like I've ever known. Like I'll come over and I'll be like, yeah, so like I have this thing, I have this like job that might be lined up. Yeah. And it'd be good. Yeah. And like
I'm what I'm hearing is I should like chill out.
no, it gets better because like after one or two yeahs, you start forming the fantasy of like how this becomes the coup that overthrows society. You're like, so this is a coup, right? So we're gonna go to their house, we're gonna burn them down. It's like, look, it's just an internship. It's just, let's see if they like how I do social media. Okay.
I just believe in you, Jetta. Jesus.
We're particularly punchy today because we rode in a car together.
We did. I'm very bad at driving.
No, that's not what I was referring to.
Oh.
I was just referring to how we were kind of...
Oh, proximity
We
wise?
were bantering.
Oh, well, that's true.
Okay, all right. So
Also, you're a bad driver.
It's true.
Okay, I'm not...
I'm a very bad driver, and I am easily overwhelmed in the car, which is why I normally trick somebody else into driving my car.
She thinks she tricks me, but really I just don't want to ride in a car where she's driving.
That's exactly how my sister works, too. She's like, cool, give me your keys. Have I driven you anywhere?
Once.
You mean besides crazy?
Oh!
Pew, pew.
Sam's first note is to ask Jenny to... Well, he doesn't call her Jenny.
I know, right.
To show more anger because he doesn't want it to all about be the prop, by which he means the sword, which he's gotten very good at. He suggests that Sheila get claws.
So clearly not enough prop.
Yeah. And then
Melrose is like, that sounds dangerous, and he's like, it is.
And then tells Tammy and Cherry to find something other than beating up the clan for their act because like there's nowhere that anyone's gonna like see the clan wrestle, not even on cable. And then he dramatically chides Rhonda for being late. Credits.
God. He's such a chode.
My note is now I need Lauren to explain this next scene to me because I get what the tampon is. So they're all in the gym.
The gym locker room.
Gym locker, and someone asks for a tampon. Stacy asks for a tampon. What is it? And Arthy's like, have this thing instead. And everyone's like, what's that?
So, okay, upon first watching, so I didn't really realize like how baffling this would be to anybody who's not had to go down the long foray of various period-based appliances. But the large rectangular square of gauze that Arthy starts passing out like a Bible is a technically a menstrual pad. Originally, when I saw the episode, I thought it was one of those ones you clip into a belt because that was the like kind of original pad. Like when Kotex kind of developed, they had a belt that came with it, and you had to clip the front and the back and like wear it. Jetta's horrified. You guys are not laughing at my own description, I swear. So I thought that's what it originally was, but it actually, upon rewatch, did appear to have a sticky strip on
I mean,
the
what
back.
you just described sounds like Mormon sex education.
I mean, it probably is now.
Yeah.
So it did have a sticky on the back. And so my grandmother had a lot of these. So my grandmother died, and then I assume they didn't buy any new menstrual supplies between her death and then my grandfather's death, and then I had to spend like a week up north for his funeral. And then I was menstruating because I was 14, so you're just bleeding constantly. And they had like, I was like, oh, I need a tampon. And so then I was handed this like weird gauze boat. And it appears almost to be a nighttime one because like it's supposed to be extra thick in the event that you like to absorb. It's an extra mattress to like protect your mattress. But yeah, that's what that is. It's a weird fluffy pad that I think it's really interesting that they make it about toxic shock syndrome because that's so not in like I mean it is a very common thing and it is a very dangerous thing, but it's so not of the nomenclature. But I'm sure in the 1980s it would have been a terrifying thing.
And then And then Melrose points out that they're all on the same cycle.
Yes.
Okay. Does that happen? I thought that like women all getting on a cycle was like a joke that men made about cis women to make them sound, frankly, cool as hell.
It's kind of no, it's not a thing.
Okay.
What we have is so the cycle, the average cycle of somebody in possession of a uterus and a vagina that is still menstruating is kind of like 28 to 31 days, and you have a limited amount of days in a month. And so what you're probably having is people that are start at like 2 days in, and then 2 days later somebody else is starting in, and then another 2 days later somebody else is starting in. And so what you have is like several women menstruating around the same time, simply because that's how days work. And there's a finite amount of days with which you can be menstruating. And you might have somebody who's on a 28-day cycle that can kick off somebody who's on a like 30-day cycle like a couple days early, because they kind of get the pheromones. So really what it is that calendars are hard. That's all. Time is a construct, etc. But I actually thought it was interesting that Arthi went toxic shock syndromes. I mean, I think it's cool that she's a med student, because there's a lot of parts of, specifically I know America, of immigrant and highly religious populations that eschew tampons because it's considered kind of like a weird sex thing. And so the fact that they went with toxic shock is, I think, actually kind of a good, safe route. But you know, this show is uncouth, so I'm kind of surprised they didn't go whole hog. But maybe it's because it's what's happening later.
So Ruth seems the only person not part of the club.
You'll notice that she in fact she starts kind of like feeling her breasts in a way to indicate that they're tender, which can be premenstrual or pregnancy. Spoiler alert,
yeah, spoilers.
for 2 paragraphs later.
So Ruth finds Sheila looking at a birthday card, begins to sink. Sheila says that they're birthday scratchers from her aunt. When's the last time either of you have ever done a scratcher?
It would have been Christmas 2012.
I mean, I can't think of when the last time was, but I used to be really into them. And I had a friend who, that was his thing. Was anybody had a birthday, he would get them scratchers.
I've had
that was like his whole
relatives that do that.
thing.
Yeah, just hand me a 5. But yeah, I've had relatives or like relatives of people that I've been dating who've been really big into scratchers.
I'm really into scratchers for kids.
What?
So Nintendo, like in the 1980s, like right when Nintendo was getting big, Nintendo released these scratcher cards that were basically, what you did was that you would buy trading card packs and you would connect, like, so there would be 9 cards that you would line up, and those would be like all the levels in a game of Zelda. And then you would scratch to see if you made it through the game.
I remember these.
And I buy these when I find them, and I have a whole collections of them. What's hellacious about them now? It's almost like erotic. It's like Orgasm Denial, but like for childhood nostalgia. And I'm gonna look the other way because I just realized that sounded really bad. But like,
Paul's not gonna edit this out, is he?
I'll think about it.
but so like after like 20 years, that stuff adheres, so you can't actually see.
I don't think I've actually seen those since they came out.
Yeah.
Like, I remember those as a kid. Now that you're bringing them up, I'm like, oh no, I totally remember those. But
and they came with stickers. So we'll actually hold me to this. I will show pictures of these in for the site.
Okay.
But I would have stickers, and in some of the stickers, it actually showed one Link dying and another taking his place. So like the cards seem to present like this multiverse where like multiple Links are trying to save multiple Zeldas, and you're just kind of like hopping from dimension, like as like some like Rick Sanchez-esque like apathetic player god, just watching men die for rich women's glory.
Princess Peach, you're an icon.
word.
I'm trying to think of what like the closest would be to that. Oh yes, okay. So when the Star Wars first movie came out, the prequels, they had this. Whatever. It's number one, not the first movie.
Okay,
Number
all right.
one. I knew the difference. Paul's so mad at me. Anyway, so Lay's was doing this special where they would give you kind of like a little bit like that, where it would be one of those like flip up lotteries to win a prize. And so you could either do the big like flip up, but you could only open one because they're fucking assholes.
Oh, I remember those too.
And so it was like you either like could do something that you had a better average of winning, or like the big kahuna, right? And I won a poster and did not collect because it was not a good poster, because it was the first movie poster and I didn't care about any of those dudes. But I was mostly like, I could win $1 million off of Star Wars. I'd be here for that.
What did you think I meant when I said scratchers for kids?
I instantly thought, this is weird. So remember that zebra gum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tattoos for kids. Like, and how you would lick it. And,
Oh.
like, that's, I'm like, is it some sort of thing where you could cash it in for candy? Like, I was kind of like, that's
Or
right.
like the gum cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the candy cigarettes, frankly.
I was recently at a at an Antifa meeting where people were passing out like stickers, and I thought they were temporary tattoos. So I was like, just like licking and then like holding a boot, like stomping a Nazi's face into debris, like on my thigh, just being like, yeah.
That'll be your next tattoo. We'll get that one.
Actually, no. So
Just don't lick it
my
first.
My next tattoo that I'm gonna get is I'm gonna get a slice of cake that says "Sugar Mama." It's what I'm gonna get myself for my 32nd birthday.
I love it. I'm going to get the Seal of Lilith because apparently I want to walk around with a target on my back. Hey, if you pledge our Patreons, we can buy tattoos.
So then Jenny jumps out of the stall with the sword
Which she should have used on the Scratchers. How great would that have been?
Yeah.
to say that Sheila has to have a party because birthday parties are her passion. And she immediately starts micromanaging the rest of the locker room into planning Sheila's party. Sheila looks terrified.
She's the Pinkie Pie of this outfit, I think. And Sheila is the Rainbow Dash.
What are those?
Those are My Little Ponies.
Oh, okay.
And then, what do we think? That Debbie is Rarity? Actually, no, somebody would be Crafty or would have to be Rarity. You don't know what any of this is. I'm just me talking about My Little Pony, aren't I? So Rarity, weaponizing femme performance. Huzzah. So Rarity is the best. Applejack, I appreciate their...
Applejack's my favorite.
Yeah, for class solidarity.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. And then it's like Pinkie Pie, who's like, if a extrovert was harassing you... Did you want a party? No, I threw you one anyway. And then Rainbow Dash, who's the butch. And then Spike, who's a tiny anxiety dragon, who would be definitely Sam Silvia. This is all panning out. Okay.
So the next scene, Sam calls Batch's house where Florian is just lounging around in a spa.
Yes.
And says that he hasn't seen Bash in 3 days. And he gives my new favorite line of the show where he says, "Last night was breakfast for dinner night and I'm the only one who ate it."
This is going on your tombstone.
Okay.
Also, Florian is flocked to high hell with his haircut. It is beautiful.
He looks really good.
It's great.
Ruth comes in to tell Sam that Friday's hijinks were a fluke and that together that they will triumph. A little weird. To which Sam responds, "Yeah, I've met you," whatever that means. Sam asks if everyone knows about Rhonda and then says he has to break up with her to maintain his authority. And then asks Ruth to come with him to look at a venue so he can have someone to disagree with to clarify his own instincts. And my note here is, boy, and how did a man write this?
Okay, so Paul, you're a cis man that we've cornered on this podcast. Is this a thing that men do?
Bring women along specifically to disagree with them so that they can feel like they have the upper hand in the situation?
Yes.
Yes, all the time.
Okay. Why?
I haven't the slightest. I don't do that. It's not
Damn
something
it,
I'm familiar
we
with.
selected the wrong man.
Who's we, Cupcake?
I selected the wrong man.
All right.
You know, I think a little bit of it is just power of authority. You know, kind of like he said earlier about having to break up with Rhonda is like, I got to break up with her in order to reassert my authority and dominance over the women so that they're not making fun of and talking about me behind my back.
Right.
When,
I can't
spoiler
pick one, they have
alert,
to all want me.
they're still going to want to do that,
Yeah, 'cause
even
you're
if you break
awful.
up with her. Maybe
Probably
even more
especially
so.
'cause she's like so hot and great.
Yeah.
And sweet. Like, yeah, I'm gonna admit, with a little bit of my own internalized toxic masculinity, that I do this too. As a writer, I get notes for things, and then I go, "Fuck you! I'm gonna change these other things that you did not list, and it's gonna be great." And then I change all those things, and then half of what they suggest, and then it does turn out great.
So the next scene, Mark is feeding Randy. I keep getting Mark and Randy's names mixed up. Because why would you name a baby Randy? That is dooming him to grow up to be the electrician uncle who, like, always starts the whirlpool in the above ground pool at every family barbecue. Like...
So my first boyfriend was named Randy.
Oh, was he?
Yes, so we were in preschool.
Oh.
Oh.
His name was
Did
Randy.
you ask how was he?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. I was going to wait for that because I was going to say... Was he indeed Randy?
Well, it's funny that you should say that.
But we have established that as a very inappropriate context.
No. Wait.
No.
So
I'm making the right choice. You can't make me.
I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna
Okay.
tell the story. Everyone is of the same age, which should make this better a little bit. So when I was a young whippersnapper and I was in preschool and I met Randy, I invited him over to my house for a play date. I mean, I didn't. Our mothers coordinated it.
Oh, okay.
And then I said, I'm the princess and you're the prince, and I've been like, you know, now I'm under a spell and I'm asleep, so you have to kiss me to be awake. And then I just like fell over. Right, just like conk. And then he did so that he could keep playing with me. And that's the story of how Lauren got her groove back. I'm gonna tell you, I still have that level of subtlety to this day.
True.
Paul knows this is somebody who has met my subtlety on the romance end.
Yes.
So Debbie comes home, and Debbie shows him the signed divorce papers, which I actually really liked. She's just like,
Fuck you, they're notarized, go to hell. Like, she's just like done.
and then she's like, I love you, Randy.
Yeah, I know, that was really cute. I'm like, he is a baby. He's a baby that can sit up, but basically he's looking at the ceiling like it does not matter.
Yeah, I kind of like how she like screams "fuck you" and then immediately is like, "I love you, Randy. I love it. How you doing?" It kind of like
I'm gonna get full custody. Fuck you, Dad.
So Mark immediately tears up the divorce papers, explaining that his divorce papers were just a power play for him to feel in control.
Ooh,
dick.
And
fun!
that no lawyer will sign off on an agreement that guarantees him 10% of all her future income, and says that she had an affair with Burt Reynolds because...
That's what he put in there just to be a shit. He's like, I had no intention of handing you the papers, even though I brought them with me to this thing that you were doing and then handed them to you.
in private.
Yeah.
But like beyond that, went to get written up by his lawyer, printed them out, took them with him. I mean, there's a whole lot of steps
There were several secretaries involved in this. Like, it's the 80s. Like, anyway.
I don't know why, but I thought Mark was a lawyer. They never specified what he does.
Something with a suit. I guess I assumed it was a lawyer, too, or something.
Debbie chides Mark for trying to feed a toothless baby celery. That reminds me of when I was babysitting. So the family I babysat on that I mentioned on last episode, I taught their child how to sell that he was hurt after a wrestling move. And I just learned that he'd been doing that to get them to stop going places. That when they would want to leave the house, he would pretend that his knee was hurt so that they wouldn't leave. Mark asks her to stay for dinner so they can work on rebuilding their marriage. Because he's been going to therapy twice a week.
CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, which is very 80s.
Yeah. When she asks him, and he's like, I'll cook. And she's like, when did you start to cook? And he's like, since when my wife left me, which is peak 80s. Like,
If he had said it in front of a, like, brick wall,
yeah.
it would have been perfect. You can't take my wife, she took herself. It's one of those.
So Ruth
My Andrew Dice Clay impression.
That's pretty good. Ruth and Sam visit the venue. And the note I have here is, and are given a tour by the woman I assume screens your calls when you sell your soul to Satan.
But it's actually Brooke Hogan.
Hulk Hogan's daughter in the flesh.
That's right. She sang that incredible song About Us with Paul Wall.
Oh, I forgot she tried to have a music career.
It was funny. And then she became a country artist, and then she became a wrestler, and then she became on this show.
Fan of the show, friend of the show, Brooke Hogan. So, all right. So, they're touring the venue, which apparently Styx canceled on.
Yeah, she was like, and Brooke is not great at delivering lines in this.
Ruth says that it looks Aztec, and then the venue manager corrects her to say that it was Mayan because it was part of the Mayan revival of the 20s. I love that they added this color because I fucking love architectural history. Mayan revival, cool as hell.
Yep.
What I take offense to is that for them to put in this color, you have to ignore the fact that the venue that they are in is the Mayan Theater in Los Angeles.
They don't
And
know
here we
nothing about architecture.
Here we have the Mayan Theater, where it's all about Aztecs.
They're the same. 100%.
Oh, it's like how Iceland is green and Greenland's full of ice. That was a plot point in the second Mighty Ducks.
It
It was! I was just thinking that! I was just thinking that! I'm like, oh,
When
the
you
only reason I
said
know about
that.
that is Mighty Ducks!
Oh, good
Oh my
times.
god, guys, we're such 90s kids.
So
Emilio Estevez stole our hearts.
when I was a child, my father explained the Greenland Iceland thing as like an attempt to fool pirates.
Yeah, that's what I had heard too.
Yeah, and I've never bothered to look that up because that's like one of the few positive memories I have of my dad.
Fair.
That I'm like, I'm just never gonna get a history degree, and I never have to challenge this.
But also, like, how cool of a, like, old world story is that?
Yeah.
Like, we switched the names to fool pirates because we didn't want pirates coming to Iceland because it's really lush and green.
Actually, since I earlier today Captain John Sparrowed Taco Bell, this feels very topical.
We get what we call a pet the dog moment, where Sam kind of is in his element and he shows Ruth like all the things that he wants to do, like, and we get this like we see Sam actually be good at his job.
Or part of his job.
Yeah. The part of his job he gives a fuck about,
Yeah.
which is the wandering around empty space being like, I could do all this if I wanted to.
But I don't have enough cocaine.
This is going to be a first on our show. We have a reading series.
Yeah, we're going to have a Glow the Distance poetry hour. Okay, so I'm going to give some context. Oh, yes, play those bongos. I don't know if you'll recall, but Hulk Hogan is a racist, among many other things. And I believe it was 2015 when the video came out of him saying various racial slurs about people that Brooke was dating.
Yes.
And Brooke, in a post that was not deleted as of tonight,
Was it not that long ago?
it was 2015,
Wow. Okay.
she wrote a poem about this incident with a series of photos that she posted publicly on her Facebook for multiple years called If You Knew My Father. We are going to read it for you now.
We're going to do it in a sort of collaborative spoken word.
All right, so this is If You Knew My Father by Brooke Balea Hogan. If you knew the dad I knew, you'd know his tender heart. He'd never want to hurt his fans or family from the start.
If you knew my father, you would know how hard he fought. And the way it brought a smile to people light, medium, and dark.
We always fight a battle that people never see. And sometimes when you're hurting, you don't think logically.
Human isn't perfect, and perfect is not he. But I can tell you one thing, it's just not what it seems.
Because if you knew the dad I knew, you know he'd raised me well. He taught me folks are so much more than shades could ever tell.
And if you knew my father, you would know he's down to earth. He may have slammed the giant, but remembers life's true worth.
If you knew my father, if you just walked in his shoes, then you would know that microscope that comes with yellow boots.
If you knew my father, you would see your own and mine. And if he was your father, you never could find divide.
'Cause me, I bet your father, or someone that you love, maybe regrets something they wish they'd never done.
So if you know my father, remember he's a man. And you would crave relief if people judged everything that you did. Which is a break of the rhyme scheme.
The Lord says to forgive them. Don't be the one to stone. So please remember his strong arms when you are all alone.
The lives he's changed, the friends he's made, the people he's inspired. It makes me sad to see my dad defeated and so tired.
If you knew my father, you would know just how he's hurting. For he loves every one of you, regardless of your story.
And if you met my father, I know he'd give you love. He'd lift you up, apologize, and give you all a hug.
For those who think you knew my father, remember who you are. We all can make mistakes and carry ugly scars.
Because I know my father, I can promise this. Just like you and I, things we don't mean can sometimes slip.
We all continue learning. This life can be so rough. So if you know my father, please try not to be tough. My father has a daughter, and I have feelings too. And if you knew my father, I would do the same for you. Why did I get all the fucking racist stanzas?
It's apologia. Oh my god. So do we want to unpack what just happened?
I feel like I just endured the employee orientation video to work at Pinterest.
I think I need more Jack Daniels to sponsor this.
So Sam drops Ruth off at the hotel.
This is the best day of my life.
And then tells Rhonda to get in the car, presumably so we can break up with her as they drive through the suburbs.
I love that Green Day album.
Ruth goes to the drugstore looking for pregnancy tests when she runs into Melrose. And we see Tab in the background, in the 2-liter even. I don't think you can buy 2 liters of Tab anymore.
No, I don't
It's
think
it's the tiny cans now.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. Tab Cola. What do people drink?
I can't specifically remember anything else, but I do know that when I was watching through this show the first time, there were a lot of things kind of in the background that I was like, where did you even find that?
It's just an army of Teddy Ruxpins randomly for no reason.
Well, you can find those in my attic.
Oh god, that's so much worse than me being able to smell Apple Oreo.
When Ruth comes back to her hotel room, Jenny is browbeating the sisters.
It is like the Yaya sisterhood.
Yeah. Just like browbeating them about their balloon making for and really party planning hard.
She's gonna have a huge career in nonprofit event planning.
Yeah. We learned that Jenny's obsession with birthdays was caused by, surprise, communism.
Gee, it's not like we've got one trick or anything.
Well, you know, they don't celebrate birthdays, but they do have a lot of holidays in Cambodia. It's a holiday in Cambodia. It's tough, kid, but it's alive. I don't know how to feel about this because one of the greatest obstacles facing the new left, you know,
the alt left, if it were.
Yeah. Ugh. Facing us in DSA and other, you know, like big tent organizations, is that it is hard for us because there's this tendency in big tent to justify, like I mentioned like several episodes ago, to just be like, well, whatever the DPRK and whatever Castro, whatever, you know, Stalin did is justified because, you know, he was fighting capitalism. And that really leaves a lot of people out in the fucking lurch.
Yeah, for sure.
And that really shorts like
Usually the people that arguably socialism is supposed to help.
exactly, and we need I always feel that, and this is part of why I'm an anarcho-communist, is that I think that we need, as part of our building a larger big left movement, to do better about acknowledging the pain and suffering that was caused by like ostensibly leftist
Dictators. Leftist dictators it's still tyranny.
Yeah. That said, I don't really like how it's played here.
No.
I don't like that we only get a little bit of characterization with Jenny, and this is some of that characterization, and it's not done really in a way that's like thoughtful.
No, it's really careless. It also feels like it's supposed to add texture to Jenny, which is about her pleasing people.
Yeah.
And that frustrates me a lot, especially with what we project onto Asian women as far as like submission, and then also on top of that, like what we have given her so far is like nothing. We've given her a sword; she's really good with it, but it's like we
and then told her not to play with it.
Yeah, like we've given her like no agency, no character development, but she's got. And even if you wanted to do the whole like Cambodia grandfather thing, I think that could have been played a lot smoother, and in a lot more of an interesting way. Like maybe she could have had discomfort with Zoya the Destroyer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that would have been a really good way to do it. Like, communism is really, really hard for my family. She could have done that, but instead, we got whatever this shit is.
So Ruth escapes to the bathroom and does the pregnancy test. It is
a fucking chemistry nightmare. There's more science in this than there was in Weird Science.
As a mid-30-year-old nerd, I can fully attest to how true that statement is.
However, like Weird Science, her boobs will get bigger. That movie is trash, by the way.
Sheila hastily returns to the room to take her toothbrush and escape back into the night to avoid having to go to the birthday party.
She doesn't like being the center of attention, which is interesting. Not to say because she deserves it because of how she was dressed, but that is it's a very distinctive style that she goes for. But it's a wolf style. There is sort of a subdued quality to the whole lone wolf concept, and so it does sort of seem fitting with kind of the thematic character development that she would be like, "Oh no, please don't make me do this, Pinkie Pie. This is horrible hostage shit." And here we are.
Ruth finds out that she's pregnant.
After, like, she cleaned the grout and plucked her nose hairs and did everything. And so I actually did a little bit of research on this. Pregnancy tests at the time were actually more effective than I thought. I thought they were around 70, but they were actually around 90. Good job. But it would have been about a half-hour wait time. I don't know if anybody here has been involved with anybody who's had to take a pregnancy test recently, but you're looking at the 2-minute mark, and it's a really good time to be alive. A+. Kill your governors.
And her moment of processing this is very very cacophonously interrupted when Jenny's posse barge into the hotel room and demand Sheila come celebrate with her birthday because it's America. It's what we do here. This was a great wide open. This was A Sky So Blue, but it was written by a rebel without a clue. Full eye contact with you, Paul. You know, old Uncle Rock. So
I guess I deserve that a little bit.
There's definitely, absolutely, a great opportunity to talk about the fervent devotion to American culture that immigrants who escape horrible conditions can
develop.
Manifest.
But she's also second generation.
Yeah, but I just it's just so hacky and it's so thoughtless.
It's so casual. There's a lot of casual approaches to major things here. Which we're about to watch unfold.
Yeah.
This was a little bit of a careless episode.
Just this is like Jenny is not an extrovert. Like throughout the whole series, Jenny has always been like a submissive, like a subdued background character.
And partial to Arthi.
Yeah.
Like there was camaraderie there.
And she is now blossoming because
into a neurotic, micromanaging stage pageant mom.
Yeah, and like in a way that just feels like, well, we needed somebody to do this in the episode. we can do this and make it about communism. And it's just a lot of this just feels,
It's forced. It's strong-armed.
yeah, I don't know. Jenny deserves better, frankly.
Yeah, that's where
Agreed.
Someone who can take a shit with like a sword, like sheathed in her tube top.
she is like a boss bitch.
Sheila says that she'll go if Ruth goes, and Ruth says, of course.
It's a really sweet moment because it's not just that like they establish that, and then Sheila like comes back in and she's like, "You're gonna come, right?" It's like there's a security there. Like it's like, oh, we've been living around each other. Where it's like, I kind of need you to get me through this because this is gonna be a hard time for me.
It's a really interesting moment where Ruth has this brief glimpse of like, I could have a family, and then it's like, and then this like, oh, you already have one. You have to take care of this like wolf girl who eats nail polish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and who it recommends that you go hunt feral cats.
Yeah.
Right. I will say that through this episode, something I noticed rewatching the scene where we find out that it's Sheila's birthday is that nobody in their right mind who doesn't want a birthday would openly talk about their birthday to anybody else. But Sheila and Ruth have created a bond at this point in their relationship where she knows that she can bring it up in front of Ruth, and Ruth won't be one of those people that freaks out and is like, we need to throw you a party, not realizing that Jenny is in the stall and overhears the whole thing. But that kind of like started this, very, kind of intimate relationship between them where they've been living together. They kind of have to trust each other. And I felt like that moment in the beginning of the episode showed a little bit of the trust Sheila had with Ruth. And so when we bring it back to this moment, it's like Sheila is basically saying, I know I will be more comfortable if you are there. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm willing to go on and accept this part in the pack if you are kind of by my side. And I thought that was really touching.
It's a really good point. Mm-hmm. In the next scene, Sam and Rhonda have just had sex, and Sam makes tons of jokes about the blood, the period blood on his penis.
It looks like a crime scene.
Yeah, which leads to Rhonda dumping him. And then Sam's like, that's fantastic. You're going to do it for me. And says that he was planning to break up with her because she just wants things. Rhonda tells him that she was fucking him because she liked him and thought he was sweet. And she saw his dating video and fancied him.
And took pity on him.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm just...
And then Sam just quickly tries to like repair the situation. Is like, well, what? Let's just reset. If you really like me, let's try and make this work. Let's try and be a couple. Let's go on a date.
She's like, I'm not a robot.
Yeah. And Rhonda tells him that he doesn't actually like her. He's just afraid to be alone.
So, as a ex-straight, ex-monogamous person...
It's all right. We're here for you.
I know. Look, it was a long, slow recovery. Period sex was always a really weird thing for me in my first really long-term relationship. From all media, I was basically told that you're not supposed to have sex on your period, that men won't love you. It's fascinating that it's sort of such a thing here because it's so absent in so many ways. It's like, oh, we can't because I'm on my period, which is an excuse or an opt-out. But there is sort of this thing that's built up, I think, with people that menstruate, where they feel like they have to chronically apologize to their partners for taking a wanting a sexual sabbatical because they're feel shitty because you just genuinely do, or for being sexually available on your Shark Week, moon time, menstruation. All these words suck. I hate them all. But there's this really weird... No one tells you how to do that. Nobody tells you how to be available or tell anybody... I even still to this day, as a grown-ass person, I'm I don't know how to say this. So I'm on my period. I'm going to go fish out my tampon. I'm going to say it real loud and like this. So I'll let you think that it's funny. And really, I'm uncomfortable. There's no good mediation of how that's supposed to look. And so for Sam to kind of feed into that, oh, it looks like a crime scene. I'm not until I step on your face.
When I was living in this house while you were gone at the Philly Folk Festival, in your bathroom you had a bunch of tampons just on the floor, and it made me nervous, not because I was uncomfortable by it, but I felt like I wanted to put them away so I wouldn't step on them and kick them, but I didn't want that to feel like I was shaming you. And it's like, no. So I just have to not only let them be there, I'm just going to throw some more on the floor. Like, I need to show my friend that I super support her.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Okay. Tampons are a pain in the ass. It's not like,
Yeah.
good. If they reproduce, I'm fine with that.
There's a lot of debate and discourse around whether or not trans women live as men, in the sense that, like, if trans women are aware of their transness when they are, presenting or being, identified as male, that they never feel that and they never internalize that. And so their experience is not necessarily identical to cis men. And one of the ways in which I think that I would agree with that is that it's never been weird for me when, like, a cis female partner that I have is on her period and we're having sex. I've always, like, since I was 18, I've always, like, worn barriers, and I've always, like, done safer sex stuff. And so to me, it was never strange. And it's actually, like, sometimes there's this, like, awkward moment where, like, they feel weird, and I don't, because I didn't grow up with, like, weird feel. Like, I mean, I honestly think that if, like, cis women can all, like, bleed at the same time, I think that's fucking like metal. That is, like,
I think that there's a self-consciousness. One, because you are taught that your period is supposed to be a shiny blue liquid that pours out at once. Like, it's a kind of fundamentally gross experience.
yeah. And then, like, so I never know how to respond to that, really, because, like, I'm always torn between, like, wanting to be like, oh no, it's great, like, your body's beautiful, it's just doing what it does, and, like, that, which sometimes can be kind of patronizing, which means talking down to people. And on the other hand, like, if you are, I'm like, hell yeah, whatever, cool, night witches unite, like, we will.
The night witches, oh my god, I love you.
Which can be a little weird in a very different context.
So
yeah,
that's probably the one that would make me more comfortable, because I think that I come from the standpoint of what my body is doing right now is not beautiful. It is fundamentally disgusting. I am disgusted by it. It is annoying. There's smells, and there's, like, my underwear is ruined, and then it's like when you think you're done, 2 days later it's like, just kidding, cough, black stuff, and it's, like, gross. And, like, that is how I feel about it, but it's, like, also kind of like boogers are gross. It's just one of those things that, like, my body does, and for somebody to be like, I don't care that, like, things are, like, I'm like, whatever, like, it's cool, like, this is just what your body does. I take that a lot better than, like, your body is beautiful and doing this, the divine feminine. Some of it is because I think the divine feminine is, because I think it's, like, kind of, like, gender essentialist and gross. Anyway, a little bit. So, I mean, but, like, when it came to, like, it also was different kinds of sex that were available. So penetration, I think, is probably pretty easy for people to overcome as far as, like, the weird period hang up. But when it came to, like, oral or things like that,
yeah,
that was, like, a thing I didn't know people did until, like, 3 years ago. That they had, like, oral, like, over, like, period blood. They were just like, yep, this is fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. Should I be apologizing? Because that's, like, my response as, like, a woman to everything. Is I'm like, should I be apologizing for whatever's happening right now?
I'm okay with it. So I actually carry tampons with me because as a street medic, a tampon is very useful for plugging up holes.
Yeah.
Nosebleeds, bullet holes, all
Yeah.
of it.
Which is really great, because then when, like, it's like it's when it's this woman, like, in a bar, it's like, are you in the right bathroom? Like, pulling out a tampon is like pulling out a rabbit that's sucking its own dick. Like, they feel ashamed that they asked. And
we miss you, Bannon. Yeah, I think that's pretty good too. That's sort of the big thing that I encourage, like, dudes. And they're like, how do I make, like, women feel more comfortable in my life? And I'm like, well, own things that they use.
Yeah. So then we get a schmaltzy scene where Sheila learns to enjoy roller skating through the power of friendship.
One, I've never had enough friendship to get me through roller skating because it's really fucking hard. And two, they howl at the end, and it's really cute.
It is really nice.
They do, and I will say, not to contradict your point about it being a schmaltzy scene, but the last episode we kind of saw like the girls really coming together in camaraderie, you know, through the actual act of wrestling in front of people, and like Sheila really is the outsider of the group, so to see her kind of howl with everyone else and like be a part of something that they're all doing together. I don't know. I really, that was my favorite scene of the episode. I really liked that. I thought that was, you know, kind of genuine and sweet and sincere, and
it was really, really, really cute.
And then Ruth sees a mother helping her child learn to skate, starts to cry,
and starts to leave.
and then she runs into Rhonda, who jokes that maybe the reason Ruth doesn't feel so great is because she's pregnant.
Haha! Remind me of the gender of the person that wrote this episode. Is it a man? I think it's a man.
This scene is very strange for me.
Ham-fisted.
It's ham-fisted, but also it's like, obviously I'm never going to get pregnant, at least not in this century, but also, like, I know a lot of trans women who feel that pain. Like, when they see, like, babies, they feel pain that they cannot currently, we're working on it.
Yep.
Cannot currently reproduce children in that in a stereotypical like female, like in a conventionally female fashion.
Yeah. In the second wave feminist version of female fashion.
Yeah. I can relate to the pain of the episode. I think that we're kind of overlooking like that the baby inside, like the fetus inside of her, is like from a guy who fucked her and then like
hasn't returned her calls, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that Mark is worse than Sam Silvia, but he's probably tied. This is a man that tried to own a woman and own 10% of her income and make up a lie about her just to control the situation.
Yeah, and I think that this episode overlooks that.
They see her as independent, I think.
So like she has this potential right now to start a family in this moment, which is what her best friend was haranguing her about in the first episode.
That's right.
She cannot, she's no longer her best friend because the person who gave her that, who like put that feed, I don't know how to straight euphemize that, but like the person that
knocked up.
Yeah, the person that knocked her up is the fucking snitch.
Yeah.
Who ratted on her and told his wife that they've been fucking around.
There's also this really complicated feeling when you have a pregnancy scare. You do feel like this incredible pressure to like weigh in somebody else's choices, especially if you're in a relationship with somebody. Like, I give major props to like the fact that like abortion is largely used by people that are married that have a couple kids and they know that their own limitations. And I think that's an important thing to highlight. Anyone should be able to get an abortion for any time for any reason. I personally feel just like, you know, free bleeding all over the place. But there's this really stressful interaction that kind of happens where you're worried that you're pregnant and then you're worried that like the wants and desires of your partner are going to weigh more than how you really feel. I've had a couple in my life and they were always with people that I was romantically involved with. And I was like, and the person that I was romantically involved with at the time had been kind of an unexpected pregnancy for a very young mom. And so for him, that was not like a big deal. Like I don't know that he would have thought it was great, but I'm not sure he would have been like super cool with it. And I actually had a conversation with him once where I had to like realize that if I got pregnant, I'd have to keep it from him and probably abort on my own. Because it would have been too complicated for him. And so there's this weird quiet, like taking on all of this responsibility of somebody else's feelings in that moment, like all that weight. And then you're like relieved when they're like not pregnant. You're like, cool, I get to go to finals. Because I'm a stress skipper. Because you want to know what helps reduce your stress? Not that. But like there's so much responsibility that you end up kind of in possession of in that moment. And I mean, I have a pretty good idea of what Mark would do. I think he'd pressure her into an abortion, to be totally honest.
100%.
Yeah. Like, but it's just she is not technically on her own in that, like, if she has that baby, there's going to be a whole lot of, like, weird fucked up entanglement in it, but also she's on her own in that she's got to make all these decisions by herself.
Yeah.
She doesn't even have her best friend.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that she necessarily deserves to have the best friend, because she did, like, fuck up this whole marriage thing, and that's, like, a big thing to mess around with. But she's, like, genuinely alone.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
It is. And on that note, we're going to go on intermission.
All right, everybody, get your sadness popcorn. Eat yourself a pizza, whatever you got to do. All right, so we are at intermission.
So today, Paul is going to explain to us what the job is. What is doing the job?
So doing the job is when you lose to your opponent in the most proper way, right? So you're not disqualified.
With your pinkies out?
Yes, with your pinkies out. You got to make sure those are out and not broken. So the job is essentially to lose.
Okay. Interesting. So why is it called the job?
Well, I mean, it's doing the job. It's
I see.
It's
You're getting the job done.
Yeah, you're putting over. I mean, so doing the job means putting the other person over and making them look good, which is basically the business. It's the bread and butter of the wrestling business. Is the sort of shared world of pretend of wrestling. I once described. So I recently have been interviewing union organizers to talk about unionizing in wrestling, and I explained one of the challenges of unionizing in wrestling is you watch Game of Thrones. Imagine if Sean Bean tried to get on another fantasy show, and the producer was like, "Your audition was great, but you just got killed in a show. Who the fuck wants to see you? Like, in a show, now that you've been killed, they know you can be killed." That's literally, I mean, that's what wrestling is, where losing in certain circumstances can prevent you from getting, like, decent booking elsewhere.
Is this kind of what we saw in Lipstick and Dynamite?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is people protecting themselves, because each match is your resume for the next match.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
So while getting cherry slushies,
Carmen, the first time we've seen her in the whole episode.
yeah,
She did sigh earlier about something that's about to happen also.
Carmen lets it slip to Cherry that the show is having funding problems.
I'm going to use let's slip in quoties because she, like, doesn't let it slip.
I think
so
she
much
tried really hard.
I know, but it's Carmen, so
But
it's, like, really
she-
obvious. It's marching across her face as she's, like, talking.
She couldn't be burdened, the only person burdened with this information.
Yeah, she was, like, cracking under the pressure of keeping a secret.
Yeah. And to my earlier statement, like, there was definitely a comment when Sam was talking about the booking the venue, and you kind of, like, she's off in the corner of the screen and she kind of rolls her eyes and sighs a little bit towards the beginning of the episode, and it's that was the only other time we saw her.
Jenny brings out the cake, but Sheila has discovered she's really good at roller skating now and doesn't want to eat cake.
Yeah, she's just like, bye, and then she's, like, walking around with, like, her arms out. So maybe
So-
now a bird otherkin.
So all the girls have the cake for her. The sisters, so the age on the cake is 106. The sisters say they did the math, and Sheila is 106 in wolf years and 87 in dog years, because wolves die young.
Doesn't make any sense.
Did someone say wolves die young? Hit the music!
This is the day when the wolves die young. They'll never see a new midnight sun.
Jenny is a little
Put out?
chagrined
Yeah.
that Sheila doesn't want to come eat the cake, but Tammy tells her that she did her job as a birthday organizer. And then Jenny blows out the candles of a cake that conspicuously matches her outfit.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if it's maybe Jenny's birthday too.
Or maybe she just wanted it to be her
I
birthday.
don't know. Like, I mean, just throw her a birthday party. Like, have her pick a birthday. How about Sheila does not seem to mind. She could take this one.
Mark and Debbie have dinner. Mark reveals that he started fucking Ruth because Debbie went 42 days without touching him or asking him how his day was. And then he clarifies that this was before they had Randy. And you did the math on this.
Okay, so none of this timeline doesn't actually work out, and I'm gonna be petty as fuck. I'm gonna be so petty. I'm Tom Petty.
Heartbreaking.
And I'm free. Anyway, so Randy is beyond larval stage of human infant, because for a long time there they cannot like hold their head up or do anything largely other than fart really loudly. Oh my god, they fart so loud. It's kind of shocking, but it doesn't really check out because that kid is not 42 days old. He's older than that. And then it's like, when does the 42 days start with the whole Ruth thing and the timeline of her pregnancy? So let's say it was 42 days of the ninth month that she was pregnant, which, yeah, welcome to the 9th month of pregnancy. Like, you just feel awful. And then she has the baby, and then after that, and then he has sex with Ruth, and then he has sex with Ruth again. It doesn't check out to when this baby has happened. It doesn't work at all.
Well, I mean, I'm under the impression that they had their affair before Randy was born. But even then, it's without really knowing how far along Ruth is. The timeline is just...
It doesn't work because, okay, let's say that happened. Let's say that they had sex when, we'll go with 9th month just because it seems the most plausible. So 9th month, that baby is still too old. Like, if he's still, like, holding a torch for her at the time that he crawls through her window like a weirdo. Remember when that happened? Because that happened.
Yeah.
This is a man that crawled through her window to fuck her because she said to fuck off after they got drunk and hooked up, and then immediately dropped off the face of the earth after he guilt-tripped her into sex. Just the timeline is rough because she's already spent, like, 2 months with these women. She should be farther along. Or the baby should be younger, or the timeline of this doesn't work out.
Welcome to television.
I know. How I Met Your Mother, a shit show.
He then asks Debbie to hug him when she cries when she realizes that they were both unhappy in their marriage when they had their baby.
Yeah, and she was like, why did we start a family if we were so unhappy? And I'm like, I don't know. Split skis. But that's the last not what happens.
He asks her to hug him and says he learned it in therapy. And for the first time in the show, Debbie is me, because I too am concerned that a therapist is hugging their client. I didn't make
Intimacy lean. Intimacy lean.
I only made it through like a couple psychology courses when I was studying to be a therapist, but yeah, you're not supposed to touch people. Pretty sure that's like the rule.
Yeah, like the first one anyway. It's like the first rule of therapy club. Second rule, you don't tell the secrets of what happens in therapy club.
And do you want to take us to the home stretch?
Yep. So Ruth is in a hotel room, the hotel room that they've been staying in, obviously, with glaringly hideous wallpaper that I just noticed. It's got like ships and filigree and shit. And she calls Sam to go to the Aborto Mart with her because she didn't know who else to call. And we all had different theories as to why that is. And I would actually like to kick off with Paul's, spin over to Jetta, and then we'll finish with mine. So how does that sound? So Paul, what was your initial reaction to this scene?
So my initial reaction to this was that Sam presents himself as just such a dirtbag. Obviously
there are no male heroes in this show.
And so like when I was first watching it, I had problematic thoughts to myself about how, she only called him because he's the only person that wouldn't care and wouldn't question her and wouldn't really think any less of her for it. I kind of had problems with that and thinking that way about Ruth and about Sam until Jetta brought up a really good point.
So I think that Ruth calls Sam because that has been the plan all along, in the sense that, Sam has isolated these women from the world. He, wears down their self-esteem on a daily basis. He, tells them that they're annoying, that they're irritating, that they don't work hard enough, that they don't impress him. He then gets, aggressive around other men, who get near them. He's warned these women, he's broken these women and locked them in a tower, and they basically all have Stockholm syndrome now. because and I don't think that if it was anyone else in this situation that they would have called any other person. I think that like any woman who, if the cast had needed an abortion, they would have called Sam. If they, you know, if they crashed their car in a ditch, or if anything had happened to them, Sam would be the person to call, because he has completely mutilated their like ability to navigate with the outside world anymore. You know, it's him and a guy who like sits at the motel bar and calls them whores all day. Like, he is their only avenue for any positive or supportive male like attention, and he gives it so fucking minimally that that they have to be chewed out by their father in front of their coworkers, or they have to, you know, find out that they're pregnant from the like, you know, guy that split up their like friendship, you know, like that. This is what he does with women. And so I see this as actually like a manifestation of like his abuse and codependency, which I don't know how this like colors the rest of this episode.
Well, so I like validate kind of both the thought processes that you both are kind of bringing forward, and they're very enlightened and nuanced and kind of things that perspectives I didn't consider when I watched this. So she can't call Mark, she can't call Debbie. I could kind of get why she wouldn't want to call any of the girls either. There are weird things, I think, weird gender norm shit, we'll just call it that, where sometimes you just need one of your douchey guy people in your life to like tell you that the choice that you're making about your own self is okay. It's kind of an extension of the male gaze. You know, what we don't talk about in feminism, I think, is just how intoxicating the male gaze is. It's a hell of a drug. And the thing that you are taught to consider most is what men feel. And so when men believe in you and tell you that you're making the right choice, it's sort of a dopamine level that you don't necessarily reach. And it means that there's a confidence in yourself and the choice that you're making that just doesn't happen when you just make a decision for yourself. We shouldn't need male approval, and that it shouldn't matter to us, but it does. Like, all of society is set up to make it so that it matters. And so in like really what is ultimately considered your most like feminine moment and your most naked moment, in which other people are scraping around inside your uterus, which is kind of what we think of as the most like feminine you can be, which is problematic, of course, but she needed a dude there, and she needed a dude there that wasn't going to question her. And so she's got Gregory, who does call her a whore all the time, or she's got Sam, and Sam will go. She just needs somebody who's not going to, I think, and I mean, I've been this person, and this is, I think, an extension of the strong female protagonist, where it's like, you just need somebody who won't talk to you too much, or won't talk to you about you too much when you make a really hard call. I recently had kind of a cancer scare, and I went to that appointment alone because I just couldn't take on somebody else's emotions. And so the repressed, neurotic, terrier Sam Silvia in that waiting room would be enough of a distraction for you to kind of like not have to deal with what's happening. Because this is never an easy or necessarily a fun choice for people. And so that's how I read this, is it's like, yeah, it's because he's an asshole, but like, he can distract you.
I think that's as good a way as any to sort of talk about what happens next. Mm-hmm. I do want to mention, not to like overstep your work in recapping.
Yeah, sure, of course. I recap the last 5 minutes.
The part about her going to getting the abortion is at the end when they are setting her up, and like they start describing like she's gonna start feeling some discomfort in her, you know, vagina, and she's like, I'm a wrestler, and they're like, what? I didn't hear you. And then she has to be like, I understand. Like, she had this, like, she tried to hype herself up.
Yeah.
She tried to like puff herself up against like, you know, a really terrifying, horrible, like depressing, agonizing moment of like immense personal defeat, and no one heard her.
Yeah, I did it too. I did it to Kesha's TikTok. You know, we and that was it. Is like there's just these weird things that you do when you have really kind of scary appointments that have this weird mortality or wrapped up in procreation, that you just do weird shit. Like you get cervical screenings to Kesha. It's strange. But he does pick her up. He picks her up in a Cadillac, which feels like something. Paul, you know about cars. What the hell does that mean? If a car were an astrological sign, what would a Cadillac be?
I mean, I have no idea, but the fact that Sam drives a Cadillac, and, you know, Cadillacs have for a very long time been a status symbol. Mm-hmm. It's very much, but he drives a shitty Cadillac, and it kind of makes sense that he would like want a Cadillac because it is a status symbol,
And then to trash it.
but either A, trashes it, or just like can't really afford, you know, a brand new off the lot Cadillac or even a good Cadillac. Mm-hmm. It's definitely kind of shitty and run down. Mm-hmm.
Ruth and Sam both smoke, and he mentions that he's broken up with Rhonda, and then he lies that she's been crying and that he initiated it, and that when really she told him no thanks. She actually did it very sweetly, and she told him to hit the highway. Ruth says nothing in the car, and they walk in together wearing hideous outfits, and she signs in with a redheaded woman who calls Sam her boyfriend, and Ruth corrects her. You know, he's not my boyfriend. And he says, yeah, I'm not her boyfriend. I'm her husband. And that this just wasn't the right time for them. And then just this whole thing about going raw dog and all sorts of shit. And he says that he'll go and get donuts while she's in the procedure. And he mocks her wanting a pink frosted donut, which I think is actually probably the most comfortable that she sort of looks in this. And she's like, I like things that are pink. And he said, if you liked pink things a little less, we wouldn't be here. And then he sort of takes this pause, and he says he feels like he should ask if this is what she wants. And she gets called and says, don't come back without donuts. And he says that he'll wait so that she can pick one out for herself. And he sort of responds with, wow, that was fast, as if this was a thing that was too quick for him. And so that she can pick out her own donut. And she's on the table, and the nurse asks if she's considered all of her options. And Ruth is like, yeah. You have your tools inside of me, so I think we're going through with this. And they tell her they're going to inject her cervix and start the procedure. And they say that there'll be a bit of pain. Usually it's kind of a very particular kind of stress, a soreness, and a cramping. She says she's a wrestler, as Jetta mentioned earlier. And she sort of exhales and flinches and looks up at the ceiling, which is painted blue with clouds. And I can mention that that's still a thing that they do. This particular type of procedure leads me to believe that she's a little far along. Then we just end and we roll credits. Mm-hmm. That's it. And that's the end of the episode. And it's a bit of a dark turn, I think. I think this is sort of one of those lower, like, the back half of the episodes of the season have been darker, which I kind of appreciate. So we've reached the end of the episode. How does everybody feel?
Bad?
Tell me more. Use your words.
Ruth is irritating.
Yep.
She's irritating. She has no concept of boundaries. She's so self-important, so absorbed, and yet, like...
You don't want Mark to knock her up, though.
It feels a bit like the show is self-aware of how irritating she is, and as a way to kind of like console us as an audience over how irritating she is, they are putting her through like the most harrowing, isolating, like soul-crushing experience possible, and I don't like it. Like, I'm not saying that it's not good television. I'm not saying that it's not effective. It's very effective. It's pretty well done. Despite, like, you know, like we said, like some of the issues with this episode were very clearly being like, you know, a dude with a 2-syllable name, you know, trying to explore issues of motherhood.
Yeah.
Um,
Nick, formerly Jason, probably.
Chad.
But yeah, I don't like it. It sucks. It sucks to see another person experience this. My other thought is that this episode really resonates for me that I am Sheila, because she's the trans analogy. She was, basically whisked away on a subplot about hating birthdays, which I do. I struggle like really bad with celebrating my birthday. So that all the cis women could process with each other about cis women problems. And you know what? I wish that we could reform trans-exclusive radical feminists to do stuff like that. Just like, buy me a movie ticket and I'll just go watch a movie. You can all talk about like your bleeding uterine lines, I'll just fucking, have some popcorn, watch Baby Driver.
I mean,
like if we could do that.
I have a hard time thinking that you'd pass up on cake, though, because I know how you feel about food.
Yeah.
And I do feel like you'd be down for 106 candles. But no, I agree. Like this was weird too, because it was like the trans analogy like versus the weird anti-communism bent, and the weird immigrant bent. It was odd. Ruth is irritating, and I agree that like what they've got to do is they've got to put her through like all the fire and the hoops in order to make her in any way human at all. She is so irritating and so like plucky and underfoot and kind of like this weird, raw, vulnerable, gross, mushy thing that we've got to like, she's got to get an abortion from this guy about this guy too. And like Sam's going to pretend to be her husband. He has to elevate himself to that status. He can't be your boyfriend. He's got to be your husband. He's going to own that much part of her. But he'll let her pick out her own donut.
But he'll complain about what color it is.
Yeah. It's this really, really, really complicated thing. And the pregnancy angle is a really risky one. The sort of risky thing only I think a dude writer would attempt. But at the same time, I kind of liked it. I thought it added something kind of important. I think to me, it adds what's at stake. Because I think people forget about this, where it's like, oh, this is hack. The experiences with women and what can kind of like really bother them are hack. And like, yeah, it's true. But like at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that like really impacts an incredible percentage of women is the fact that they get pregnant and they have to drop out of the workforce. Or they get pregnant and somebody doesn't stick around. Or they get pregnant and they don't have access to abortion, no matter what their deal is. And oftentimes they are married and have kids already. And it was a parade of men being fucking mediocre. Absolutely. But like, that's what Glow is for. You're not supposed to walk away from it feeling incredible kinship to the men. Like, Sam Silvia is clearly the romantic lead. We're supposed to like look at him and go, oh, you're just like Ruth. But Ruth fucked her friend's husband. Mm-hmm. Not great. But she did one bad thing and then was annoying. And that is on par with what is arguably, 45, 50 years of this man doing cocaine and fucking around with his life and doing multiple failed marriages because he can't communicate and trying to keep a dog. Like, it takes so little for Ruth to be as bad as Sam Silvia and in the mind of Sam Silvia, and hopefully not the mind of the viewer. But Ruth's annoying. She's not necessarily a bad person. Sam is really kind of preying on the idea that he's like, oh, we're the same. We're the same kind of fucked up. But you're not. And that's a little hard for me to watch. Because I've seen that. I see that so often, where it's like a little bit older men or a lot of bit older men project onto women that don't fit whatever mold of ideal like femininity exists. And then they project all of their baggage onto them and then expect them to take it on. And so the amount of like emotional like work that Ruth is doing in that moment is her own, all that shit about Debbie, all that shit about Mark, and then all that shit about Sam. Because he broke up with Rhonda. And that's somehow her fault too. So that's her responsibility. That's kind of my feelings walking away from this episode. Paul, what have you got?
What can be said that hasn't already?
Sorry.
No, I just mean you both bring up some really good points about this episode, and kind of hit a lot of the talking points about what I didn't like about it. Kind of binge watching this series all in one, which is what I did the first time through. You kind of don't think about certain things, but when I was watching this episode again alone, which I did I think 2 or 3 times before this, just to kind of get my bearings with, the episode itself, realizing that she realizes that she's pregnant and gets the abortion within a 25-minute span doesn't feel like enough breathing room to kind of develop what that means to her and what that means to viewers.
Yeah.
And I know that, we've kind of talked about how it, feels a little bit forced in the plot, and like
I think the setup doesn't work for me. You could have sold me on it, but the setup.
Yeah, I just I feel like if it had more time to breathe, this particular subplot had 2 or maybe even 3 episodes to kind of breathe, and that could be anything from her realizing it 2 episodes ago and then not really touching on it that episode, and then maybe like one episode she's kind of reflecting a little bit on like what that means to her. But like I think we picked apart a lot more about what the implications are to her as a woman and her as a working woman than the writers did.
They should have called us. We're available. Season 2. We're here for you.
There were a lot of like little things I liked with character development through the story, as I brought up before. But I think overall, it was hard to watch as like an individual 25 minutes.
What did you learn this week?
Well, so I learned about the job. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot of things. I learned so much, you guys. I'm the learniest. I learned about the job, which is sort of kind of losing as part of your career. Mm-hmm. Like you're required to lose. And apparently it paints you into a bit of a corner as a bit of a loser. And I can't imagine why anyone would kind of sign on for that, but I guess somebody does have to lose, so I hope it pays well. In addition, I learned that I love Glow a lot. This show, I really do. I really love it. And I in some ways, I'm like glad that we're showing kind of different flavors of womanhood, but it does sort of distress me how gender essentialist this show is.
Yeah,
it's really, 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 really cis focused, and the argument could be made that we have to make space for everything. But I don't know. I keep thinking of this article that I once read where it's like I've spent my whole life cleaning up after cis women's pussies, and like when I read the title, I was like, hey. But then I kind of like got into it. It's like, yeah, there's all of this like solidarity that like trans women experience, trying to like bolster up cis women to be confident enough to advocate for trans women, and then they don't deliver.
Yeah.
And this, when you really kind of unpack all of the whole Sheila thing, kind of feels like an extension of that. So that's a little disappointing to me. So that's what I learned this week.
All right, now we get to Most Marin Moment.
Most Marin Moment. It's just so fun.
So I would say that my Most Marin Moment is, what do you mean I don't like you? I just had period sex with you.
All right, Paul, why don't you go next?
My Most Marin Moment is the whole episode, but more specifically, when Rhonda comes in and he tags her for being late after telling her to follow him in much later because they can't be seen together and he can't be late because he's the director.
Yeah,
but just it was the way he did it was just like looking at his watch, tapping it, looking at her and being like, you're late in front of everybody.
I think getting broken up with in avocado sheets and deserving it. So first he's like, I'm going to take the sheets out of your pay. And then he's like, whatever, I'm just joking. Because that gets him dumped, as it should. And possibly, like, I don't know, smothered. And Rhonda breaks up with him in the granniest of panties, which she has more than earned, I feel.
She also looks really good in them.
Yeah. Kate Nash, she's great in this. And she's actually really kind and sweet about it. But basically, like, yes, the most, like, Mark Maron thing would be getting dumped in a seedy motel because you've shot your mouth off too many times, and just the ugliest room possible. Everything is avocado and mustard colored, and that's my most Marin moment.
So something I'm just thinking about just now, the way that all unfolds is that Ruth gets out of the car, Rhonda gets in the car, and they presumably go somewhere, and then we see them post-coitus.
Yes.
So did they go to a different motel to sleep with each other? Or is that his motel room? And if it is his motel room in their little complex, where did they go? And what did they do? Or is he staying in a hotel room that's not in their complex? Which is what I'm going to assume is going on, is that his hotel room is actually in a completely different place.
It might not even be his hotel room. It might be his house.
Oh, his apartment.
Yeah.
InfoWars, check in with us. Let us know what the new conspiracy is. Where do the lizard people fall in line with this conspiracy?
Because I've been to hotels literally all over the world. I have never been to a hotel that offers avocado sheets. Not even a youth hostel.
Yeah, that's true. There's something very about the whole thing.
Well, and that's it for episode 11.
Wow.
Of Glow the Distance.
God, can you imagine?
We can be found online at glowthedistance.xyz. Our Twitter is Glow the Distance. Our Instagram is also Glow the Distance. We also have Facebook at Glow the Distance. Leave us a review on iTunes or listen to us on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/glowthedistance.
Jetta, where can you be found?
I can be found at JETTA_RAE. I have a food blog, fryhavoc.com. Where can you be found?
I can be found on Twitter at Lauren Inc. INK. I can be found on Medium at Dissident. I can be found on Patreon at patreon.com/Lauren Parker. And my website's laureneparker.com. Paul, where can you be found?
I just made a Twitter 2 days ago.
I know, you were excited. You're like, follow me back. Follow me back.
So you can find me there. It's at Wolfie Gang, WOLFYGANGG. And I got some stuff coming up in the near future. So if you would like to know about that I can't tell you about yet, follow me and I'll let you know soon.
All right.
This was a really good episode.
I feel like we've all been on a journey together.
Yeah.
Like we're going to get that ring into Mordor, God damn it.
Well, the three of us together with our powers combined really did glow the distance.
Well, Jetta, we're all